Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to My Creative Classroom for another amazing episode about transformational tools in education. Today, I'm excited to have with me Rob Bennet, co-founder and CEO of Pixel Press, the creators of the absolutely amazing and engaging Bloxels. Rob, thank you for joining me, and I'm super excited to talk about Bloxels today.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Rob, before we dive into what it is and what it can do for teachers, let's tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, your background, and how you started Bloxels.
Sure. I started out my career in the creative space as a musician. So most of my teens and 20s, I was playing in bands and touring and making albums and things like that. And then toward the tail end of my 20s, I kind of settled down a little bit with my now wife and had our first son and went through all that and decided that I wanted to be, I had some crazy ideas and wanted to kind of take the entrepreneurial route. So I formed a design and development studio with a good friend of mine. We had that going for a couple years until Robin Rath, one of the other co-founders of Pixel Press, came to me with the idea for a build your own video game system. So when he came to me with that idea, it was a draw on graph paper, and he showed me a drawing of a video game on graph paper. It looked very Mario, old school Mario style, and I thought it was interesting. And he said, "But I want to take a picture of this and turn it into a playable video game." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So that's kind of where I came in from the tech side of things. Is let's vet this and see how realistic it was. We threw it up on Kickstarter, really just as a is there any interest in something like this? And we got funded pretty quickly to the a good amount of money. We were excited about that and formed a company around it. So I am now a full-time developer. We're a small team, so I'm a full-time developer, but also running the day in and day out of the company, as well as being kind of a founder and doing things like this. So.
And let's dive right into that, because you talk about, I want to draw this game on a graph paper, then take a picture of it, and then be able to play it. And that's exactly what Bloxels is. Well, a little more than that. So let's talk about Bloxels and what it is.
Sure. Bloxels is a build your own video game platform. So at the very base of everything that we do, our whole thing is about empowering kids to tell stories and be creative through creating video games. So that's where it started for us when we were kids. We played the NES and Sega Genesis and everything like that. And we always envisioned being able to, wouldn't it be cool to be able to make these games? We could make these games. We know what's cool. And, the barrier to entry there at the time was, C or assembly, crazy, low-level languages that, kids weren't going to pick up and make Mario with. So fast forward, 30, 40 years. And you had, the advent of tablets and phones with these, cameras and amazing devices, just these powerful computers just in your pocket. And we thought, what could we do with that to bring this vision to life, bring the ability to create your own video games to life? So we didn't want any code on purpose. We wanted kids to be able to just ideate on paper with a pencil and then turn that into a video game. And that's kind of where Pixel Press was born and where Floors was born. From there, we partnered with Cartoon Network and built a more commercial version of that in Adventure Time Game Wizard, which was used one of their cool cartoon properties to kind of tell the story and let it go further. After that, we decided that drawing was still a little bit prohibitive for kids, so being able to stay in the lines, and in order for the computer vision to really pick it up and for it to be exactly what you drew, you really got to be on target, and the dexterity was a little bit high level barrier to entry. So we thought, what do kids do that there won't be any barrier to entry? And we wanted to democratize the process as much as possible. And for us to do that, we thought blocks and a board, playing with blocks and colors. So that's where Bloxels was born. Taking colored blocks, giving them meaning, and you put them in a pegboard, almost like a light bright, create your level layouts. And from there, you can snap it with a device and turn it into a real playable video game. We expanded it and made it so that you could make characters, you could make art, backgrounds, all sorts of stuff. And it's really grown over the last 3, 4, 5 years that it's been since its inception.
Man, we're really hitting some classics here. We're talking about the old NES. We're talking about Light Brights, Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
which
Showing
is
my
so
age.
cool. Yeah, yeah, but it shows like where this idea came from, right? Because as kids, you have this. I can create this game. Like I can make something better than this.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
to see the evolution of Bloxels, you talk about floors, and then the Adventure Wizard, and now into this pegboard. So let's talk a little bit about how that works. So if somebody purchases Bloxels, and I get this kit. What's in the kit? What do I need to make it work?
You don't. So for Bloxels, for the longest time, we were really kind of focused on the physical aspect of it, and I still obviously very much believe in that. And I can go on for days and days about that. But to get up and going with building your own video games, telling stories, and being creative, you really just need the software. So you can grab that to really augment the experience, especially in the classroom. It helps to have the boards and blocks. We've worked with the world that we live in now for the past year. We've focused a little bit more on the collaboration in the software and being able to share to class libraries and collaborate. I'm going to build this part of the game here, and I'm going to build the characters over here, and we're going to collaborate, digitally. So we've been a little bit more focused on the digital side of things lately, but it started as a physical to digital experience, and it still is that. It's just not as much of a requirement as it once was. So you can go get the kit or multiple kits, and it's a board. It's a 13 by 13 board, so there's 169 slots in it, basically 13 by 13, and then you'll get a bunch of blocks with it, various colors. There's 8 different colors, and each of those colors can be used to create art, and then it can be color shifted in the app. So you can create a monster or something, or Abraham Lincoln or something like that. Take a picture of it, bring it into the app, and then color shift it to kind of match what you had in your head. Or if you take the colors and put them into the game builder, they actually have meaning. So the green is ground, yellow is coins, blue is water, red is hazards, etc. They're very kind of basic concepts for kids to start to design with symbols and intention. So when they build with Bloxels, they can build a very basic level layout on the board, bring it into the app, and then customize it and make it go deeper. You can add story text to white blocks. White blocks are our story blocks. You plop one of those down, get it into the app. You can decorate it to look like a sign. And then when you walk up to that sign, you can say, I want to talk to the sign. And then you can read the text that the user put in. So you can tell stories this way. So it's a very robust platformer video game. So Mario style video game builder.
And it's amazing, you talk about the 8 colors and how the software recognizes what the color is and what it does. So I open the Bloxels and I have this 13 by 13 grid, and I want to build a game. So I start putting down these colors, and we'll use Mario as our example. And I want to build, with the tunnel, he has to jump over the hole and there's some water or whatever it might be. So all I do is I put these pegs onto the board, and what do? Snap a picture, and then I have to move, pieces around to keep that level going, or how does that work?
You can do that. You snap a picture, and it'll bring that piece of the world into the game. So the game is it's basically infinitely expandable. So you can put one board here, and then you can move it around to create another layout and put that right next to it, and you can continue to build as much as you want for a world. So if you wanted to build Mario 1-1 from the NES, you could. We've had plenty of people do stuff like that. If you wanted to build a Metroid style game, which is not only left right, but also up and down, you can do that. It's kind of, it depends. You can spend as much time with the physical aspect of it as you want and snap the pictures and keep bringing those in, or you can use that as an ideation platform and then jump into the app and expand in the app itself. So you can actually build in the experience in the app itself.
That's great. And so let's talk about the app a little bit. So is there a cost to downloading the app? Is it on every device, or is it only Android or iOS? Like, what goes along with the app?
The app itself it's available on multiple platforms. So it's available on iOS, Android, Kindle, which is Android, and then it's also available on the web. So you can actually go to build.bloxels.co. I'm sure we could probably throw those in the show notes or something. And you go to build.bloxels.co, and it's the full experience minus the camera capturing, obviously. So that's all, if you want the camera capture feature, that's device only. So, but that's iOS, Android, web builder. We also have a Mac experimental. It's in beta right now, but we have a Mac build. And then the cost to entry kind of depends. If you want it for just home use, one account, personal use, it's $19.99. If you want it in a classroom, it's $5 per student per year. And then that comes with the hardware, with the boards and blocks. And there's different tiers, so it kind of just depends on how much you want to have. So if you have 50 students versus an entire district, it just, it's all tiered out based on that. But the base cost is $5 per student per year for classrooms, and then for home, it's just $19.99 for a personal account.
So let's dive into the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's there is a free component to it, which is the arcade. So everything that gets built can be published to the arcade. As an educator, you can actually turn that off for your students if you want to, like if you want to, make it more focused on the classroom. But it can be published to the arcade. So we have an entire huge community of kids building video games and sharing them. And then we actually do a YouTube series every Friday, Featured Friday, which I actually host, and we play through featured games by these kids. So they get a little bit of exposure, through their username. Obviously, we're not talking about who these kids actually are or anything like that. But, and then everything's moderated by hand by our staff. So it's all very safe and COPA compliant. We're very focused on the safety of kids, but making sure that they can express themselves and have fun. So the arcade is free. So you can go into the app and play for free, play any of the games that the kids create. But to build and to publish your own games, that's where that cost comes in.
So let's get into, you talked about privacy a little bit there. So as a student or even a teacher using Bloxels virtual or using the game board, do I have to sign in? What kind of information do I have to give, in order to be able to sign in to use that?
Right. As a personal user, we straddle the consumer market and the EDU market. We're an EDU first company, but we do obviously realize, some people just enjoy and just want to do it at home. So that's where we kind of broke in a little bit into the consumer market as well. But so for them, they sign up, typical, email password, create that. We don't really expect anything else, in terms of sign up for a single consumer account. For a classroom, the teacher signs up with their edu or .org or whatever email address, and they can create a classroom of students that they can moderate through the edu hub, which is a tool for teachers. So it's a web platform. They can jump in, they can add their students. All they need is a username. So whatever they want to identify their students by, in their username, and then they give them a special PIN, which is like a 4-digit PIN. To log in with, and the teacher can control all that from the hub, so they can change it and reset it, because obviously kids forget things all the time. So that's all controllable through the hub. We don't collect any other data than that except for the game data. So when they build their games, obviously we're storing that so that we can recall it later.
And are there lessons or activities that may be pre-made so that a teacher who's looking and saying, they're listening to this show right now and they're like, Rob, I love this. I think I want Bloxels in my classroom, both virtual or even the board. Are there lessons or activities to get them started and work through maybe the initial steps?
Absolutely. We have an entire, in the EDU hub, when you sign up, it comes with your subscription. There are resources in the hub. There's an educator handbook that's a PDF download that's in the hub. There are student workbooks that you can buy physically or get the digital version, and those are great prompts for creating in the classroom. They have grid paper, storyboarding, so you can lay out your ideas and lay out your drawings and your designs and stuff before you even get to the board and blocks if you want to. So you can kind of take like an iterative step-by-step process. We also have activities, so if you want to build a game for math class, or if you want to build a game for geometry or geology or science in any way. So we have lots of games that have been built for those topics. We try not to be, give me 1 second. I'm getting like an itchy nose. Okay. We try not to be too focused on any one classroom or any one genre. We've intentionally tried to make it so that it's more about telling stories and building video games and telling if you're using it in the classroom, showing what you've learned through storytelling and through video game development, as opposed to coding and things like that, because there's a heavy barrier to entry there, and we really wanted the time to build to be as low as possible. So yeah, there are plenty of activities that you can jump on.
And I think that's always great for teachers, right, who are looking to try something new, and they're maybe concerned with, how do I start this? How do I implement this into my math class or science class? But, it's great to have this bank. And you mentioned the hub several times. And is this hub, as an educator, when I get on the hub, do I see a student's progress? Do I see what they're building, or even access to their game? What do I see as a teacher?
As a teacher, you see everything that they're building, and their, any progress that they've made. So as they build in the app, it's constantly saving, auto saving. So as updated as it is in the app, it's updated that quickly in the hub as well. So you can see a student's progress, which has become extremely beneficial for the distance learning, that everyone's going through right now. So you can see progress from home. So you can see their games, you can see their story text, you can actually create a PDF through the hub of their story text. Some kids, we moderate these, and I jump in from time to time, and some kids tell some really elaborate, really funny stories. So it is kind of fun to download as a PDF as a teacher. When you're finished with a unit, you can actually release the account to their parents, so you can send a PDF home for them to take the account home. So the hub, it's very utilitarian in that way. It definitely allows you to monitor progress and help the students out. You can send messages. So if you typed a message in the hub and hit send, it'll pop up in the app as the kid's using it. So those kinds of features are in the EDU hub.
That's awesome. And just, we are, we're living the global pandemic, and we know that everywhere around the world is a little bit different, whether the students are in person or they might be at home, or it's hybrid learning, whatever it might be. Do you have some examples of educators using Bloxels, with their students to help improve learning?
Absolutely. We have those examples. We've actually shared on right when the, everything kind of hit and everything kind of closed down. We scrambled a little bit to share to help as much as we could. And we created a document that was virtual game jams. So something that we do as a company, or we did, we would go into schools and we would have game jams with the students. So it'd be 2 or 3 of us, from our team would go in, and we'd sit down and we would kind of walk through what we think is an ideal process for using Bloxels. And you can actually, before the pandemic, you could actually order that from us as a service for your classroom. But we'd go in, we do have virtual jams now, and we started doing that with some of our educators that we've created kind of a relationship with, a one-on-one relationship, the people that I can text. So we had virtual game jams with them. When the pandemic hit, we put together a virtual game jam document. So basically what it is we would go into classrooms, and it would be a couple people from our team and then the class, and we'd walk through our ideal setup for building video games. And so we called those game jams. We would create a theme, we would create a rule set, and then everyone would break off into teams, and they would all jam on building the video game. This is a pretty common thread in video game development, in the community of video game development. So we were trying to kind of bring that to classrooms as well. So we were doing that as an in-person thing. And when the pandemic hit, we thought, well, wow, you can still do this digitally. You can still do this, with distance learning. So we put together a document around that. So you're asking, do we have anything to help kind of guide this along in the classroom, especially during the pandemic with distance learning? We definitely do. We put that together, and that's in the hub. And then we have some other various little things that other teachers have helped put together. We have a tutorial that was put together by an educator of ours, not our educator, but an educator that we correspond with regularly. She put together a virtual classroom in Google, and she put together a virtual arcade of her students' work for the stuff that they were using Bloxels for. And it's very, very animated, and she did a great job. So we actually asked her, can you make a tutorial out of that? And she did. So we have that, and we have various other things like that on in the Educator Hub.
And that sounds awesome. And not just the idea of the support materials that are available to teachers, but the idea that you talked about this Google Classroom having, put up this arcade system. What a way to share, like, and we talk about having these virtual tools and building video games and be able to share that with the public, because we want our students not just to be consumers, but producers.
Right.
And what an amazing way to produce. And you've mentioned a couple times, like, the video game industry and producing video games. And you earlier said you're trying to reduce the amount of coding. So how do I build this environment? Is it, if I'm blocks aside, right, the board itself aside, I'm in the web, or if I'm on the a device, is it drawing? Am I having to physically draw trees, or what does that look like?
You are drawing, when you're drawing the games themselves. So if you imagine Mario 1-1, you just have like a line of ground, and then boxes that you would jump over, and then enemies that would kind of patrol back and forth, and you bop them on the head or whatever. And you'd have to jump on the flag and do that kind of stuff. So if you imagine that in your head, and I think everyone can kind of visualize that, you can build all of that. But imagine it non-decorated. So just as basic wireframe blocks. And that's what Bloxels are, is that each color represents a piece of that. So an enemy is purple. And so you'll literally have, if you don't decorate anything, which you don't have to, you would have a purple block just, kind of patrolling back and forth, or, shooting magic dust at you, which freezes you or whatever. And so you can have that very bare wireframe, and that's all drawing based. So you just draw it in with your finger, you pick the color that you want, you draw your blocks in. Then you can go into the art builder, which is a 13 by 13 board, and you create art, which is basically the way that these old NES games were made. They were made, it was called sprites. So you would create sprite sets in the old days, and you would create an animation. So Mario would have a 2 or 3 cycle animation, and one frame would be, it's like the old flip books, that you saw, as a kid, where you draw something, kind of move, and you'd flip the pages. Same thing goes with sprite animations. That's basically what it is. But pixel art is this art style where it's just each individual pixel is drawn. And so the kids go in and they draw each individual pixel. And what that does is, there's no, you're maybe limited, I guess, by your imagination, but that's it. Other than that, there is no dexterity. There's no someone's better at drawing than someone else. If you spend time with it, you can create amazing, amazing art with Bloxels. And we've seen some kids just make stuff that blows our minds. And then you take that art and they become almost like little palette pieces for you to stamp onto those wireframe blocks in the game builder. So basically you can end up, you start with your wireframe, build it all out, see how things are going to interact, how things are going to work with the player, and then you design it. You kind of paint it. And then from there, you can configure it. So you can say that, coin is a coin or it's a key. And if it's a key, it can unlock specific doors. If it's a white block, you can add text to it, or you can make it a checkpoint, or you can make it an end flag, which kind of completes the game. So you as a user can say, I want this white block to say, the game's over, you've beat it. And then we have different effects that you can pick. Balloons, blow up when you beat it, or fireworks or whatever. And that's, so you're basically, you're the creator. You're building all these pieces. So we didn't want any code. Code was, I think it's great. I love the code movement, code.org and, Codecademy and all these great platforms that are teaching kids to code if they want to learn. I don't necessarily believe the mantra that everyone should learn to code, because some people don't want to have anything to do with it, and they're never going to learn because they don't find any interest in it. And that's totally fine. But the video game industry is the largest media industry in the world. It dwarfs movies, it dwarfs music. All of those combined barely touch the video game industry. So it's just a ever-growing interactive storytelling platform that kids understandably gravitate toward. And what better way, in the classroom to get kids engaged than through video games. So that's kind of, our mantra is to stick with that.
And I think it's, and I had a misconception going into this, thinking that Bloxels was this kind of 13 by 13 board with plastic pieces that I put in, snap the picture, and build my game from there. And the realization is that it's so much more than that. Mm-hmm. This virtual environment that allows me to create, and you just said, this kind of wired, basic layout. And then I can use my creativity and my skills to then build that to something else. So it's so cool to hear, the variety, kind of the variety of opportunities that are there for students, whether it be this physical board that I can snap pictures of and build, or using the virtual environment. So I think that's huge and a key way to grasp anyone who's looking to be creative in this video game industry.
We're really thankful to people like yourself, educators who have gone above and beyond to see the value in certain things. And we started this company, whether it was our first draw and graph paper product or as the Bloxels product, as a consumer, we were just trying to realize a dream of kid version of us, So we want to make kids be able to build video games. We didn't care necessarily if it was in the classroom or at home, but just build video games. And so I think we saw this as like a consumer product like Minecraft or whatever. And when educators started gravitating toward it, started grabbing it and realizing its potential, it wasn't us. We didn't push it into the EDU market. The EDU market just kind of dragged us in, which was great. And we realized very quickly that it's the perfect market for this because of what you just said, because what you can do is you can have one kid making a game layout, that wireframe, where they're designing not from an art perspective, but from a layout perspective, how it works. And then another kid can be the character creator. I'm going to create the enemies and the hero, and I'm going to be that guy. And then another kid can create the art. I'm going to be the tree guy. That's my thing. I'm all in. I'm into the trees, and I'm going to build the trees. And then one person can be backgrounds, and then one person can be story text and write the story. And it can create this amazing collaborative, which is basically how video games are made. Not basically, it is how video games are made. So the classrooms, we've experimented with naming things like studios and stuff, because it really is. These classrooms have become little game studios, the ones that, use Bloxels to its full potential. It's just like, it really excites us. It's so cool how they use it. So the classroom is a perfect medium for this.
And that just gave me chills, talking about that collaboration. I want to be the person who does trees. I'm not that creative or drawing, but you can have this role and be an important part of this team in building this video game. And I think, moving into education, transforming education, it's just that not everyone has to have the same role.
Right.
But we all have a role to play in building this game. And I that is so huge in that statement that you made. So one thing that I missed from asking earlier is how many or how much of this do I need in a class? We talk about the virtual aspect that I can build online, but if I was going to buy sets of the boards of these Bloxels boards, how many would I need in a classroom for it to be effective? Or is there kind of a mix of both worlds?
There's a mix of both worlds for sure. Some kids very much gravitate toward the physical, and some kids obviously don't. They just, they're focused on the digital. And I think we have that with every product on the market, or, every classroom has that problem. They've got the kids that are glued to the screens and the kids that want to build with Legos, right? So we kind of cater to both of them. Those are my sons. I have two sons. One is definitely more of a screen kid, and one's definitely more of a hands-on. So we always say, it's great if you can go 1-to-1, but it's probably not necessary. In reality, if you have anywhere from 5 to 10 boards in a classroom, that's probably good. And then if you have devices in the classroom, you can do exactly what I was saying. Some kids can be creating level layouts on the boards. The boards are awesome for level layouts because you can think through with blocks in your fingers. There's a tangible aspect to it. Building, it's like if you're wireframing a website, or if you're, building a deck on the back of your house, you plan it out. You sit down, you don't just start, nailing wood together, you plan it out. And it's the same thing for what we're doing. So if you have the board and blocks, you can be a little bit more of that planner person and build the layouts. You can even build the art. And then we have the workbooks, we have, tertiary products that kind of help augment that experience as well. You can get them as part of your subscription. You can just download them, or you can, buy them physically if that's what you want to do. But we have classroom sets. So we have what we think is the ideal classroom kit. And then we have, a school bundle, where we would expect that it would kind of be on a cart, kind of roaming around the school. And then we have district bundles, obviously, if you really want to go all in, which some districts do. We have some in Canada and definitely some in the States that are, the whole district is all in on Bloxels, and we think it's awesome. So, but I think our Classroom 5-pack is a good starting point for anyone. And I have very rarely, and this is not me, tooting our own horn, it's very rare that people have gotten it, understood what they're doing, really opened it up and played with it, and it's very rare that they're like, this doesn't work for us. It's 9 times out of 10, it's like, holy cow, how have I not been using something like this? And there are other products outside that aren't necessarily ours that we find enriching, and, we just want to be part of that community, just get it in their hands, get them engaged. That's what's important to us.
Yeah, and I think I'm hoping our listeners get that there are different layers to this, which is what we're trying to say, I think, over and over again, is it's not just the physical board, it's not just the virtual world, it's all of it. There's so many different layers to Bloxels that offers the opportunity for individual students, groups of students to build into this world, right? Yeah. And it's video games, it's designing, and you mentioned layout, planning ahead of time, having the project board ahead in front of you, the storyboard ready. I think that's it's just amazing. There's so many different skills at play there. And I can go on, but for now, I'm going to segue because I think we can keep talking about it. It excites me so much to hear about the different layers and opportunities for students as we transform education, which is my segue that I always ask our specialists on the show. It's the specialist top 5. And what I want to know, Rob, is what are your top 5 ways that you think Bloxels can help teachers transform learning, whether they're inside the classroom or at home learning?
Sure. Yeah. That's a cool question. I guess I would say if I were to put 5 points to what we do and where I think it's valuable in the classroom and how it can transform a classroom, I would say number 1, first and foremost, because we've been to shows, we do trade shows where we did quite a bit, and we would talk to teachers, and obviously, some naysayers, and they'd be like, "How is this educational?" It's like, well, it is educational, but if without me having to go deep on that, where I think it can transform the classroom is in engagement. And I don't think anything, you can have the most educational thing in the world, but if no one wants to use it, then it's not very useful. So, we have a very engaging product, and where it might lack in teaching calculus, it more than makes up for in engagement. And if you pull out Bloxels, I guarantee that everyone's going to be engaged in that 45 minutes or whatever the unit of time is. So engagement, I would say, is number 1 in terms of transforming the classroom, and that can be digital or in person. So whether it's distance learning or it's in the classroom itself, you're going to have glued eyes on the product and what they're building. So the engagement is super high. Collaboration, I would say, would be number 2. We have had whether it's special needs teachers with the kids on the autistic spectrum telling us that they don't engage with anything. It's very difficult. I have personal experience with that in my life. I understand what that's like. So whether you are a singular person that wants to be deep and enthralled in something and then have someone play through it later, and that's your collaboration, is having someone play through your creation, or you want to do what we were talking about where you're the wireframer versus the artist versus the storyteller. There is collaboration abounds, in Bloxels. So, and we've built around that. We've focused on that as a core tenet. The one thing we don't have that we plan to have is this, multi-layer concept that we want to get into. So we're continuing to expand on that. So collaboration's a big one for us. Number 3 is just novelty. I think that's a big thing. So, if I'm reading a story and I'm supposed to explain to you what I learned in that story, should I do that through a book report or should I do that through a video game? Ask any kid. I'm pretty sure they're going to want to do it through a video game. So, there's a bit of novelty there and I don't mean throwaway novelty. I just mean that, we tend to do rote, normalized things in the classroom, and that's part of it. But every now and then you can pull something out to, wide eyes and surprise. So, I would say that novelty is a big part of it. Number 4, oh man, you're really just like stretching me here. Let's see. Transforming the classroom. Well, I think that this is not every single classroom, but there are a lot of classrooms and a lot of schools that are very heavily focused on this code movement. No kid should be leaving school without some understanding of code. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that those should be, should learn the trades that they are interested in, and Bloxels allows you to do that. You don't necessarily have to be a coder to build a video game, and you don't have to necessarily even be an artist to build a video game. But you can still make it look cool and you can still make it work really well. So I think kind of rubbing against the grain a little bit, is definitely one of our tenets. We've had so many people over the years say, when are you going to integrate, a coding, side of it? When can I use it to program things? I'm like, never. It's not going to be a thing. And it's not that we can't, I'm a programmer. I love programming. If everyone thought like me, then yeah, sure, we should be building that into everything, but not everyone does. So, and then number 5, I think mashing the right and left side of the brain. So creativity and analytics. I think video games provide, especially building video games, provides a very unique opportunity to explore both sides of the brain. Video games are very artistic. At the same time, they're very, they're all based in, artificial intelligence. Ours has computer vision. Some of the same tech that's running, self-driving cars. The very basics of that is really just image manipulation and binary conversion of 2D and 3D data. So we're basically doing the same thing with ours. So there's a lot of tech, in what we're doing. There's a lot of tech in what kids do, and there's a lot of analytical thought in building something. If I put a key right here, you can't open this door 3 worlds away unless you come all the way back, get this key, and then you got to find the tunnel over here to get back there really quickly. Like, designing stuff like that is very analytical, and it's very it requires that programmer side of your brain. Whereas it does the background look engaging. Games just are more fun if they look awesome. So that's the right side of the creative side of the brain. So I think those would be my 5. That was
and I think that's a great 5. And there's a few there that you hit, which made me think, you're on point there when you're saying when you're building a game, it's not just this linear road, right? And we've been talking about Mario for quite a bit now. It's not like Mario was just created and somebody put it there and you play it. Somebody had to think, like you just said, 4 worlds ahead. You forgot to do this, right? Or you didn't get this. And we see that a lot more, in newer games where you have to pick everything up as you move along and make sure you have enough coins. And I think that's a huge aspect of everything we've talked about here today. It's not just point A to point B. You have to go from point A to point D, and you need to figure out how to get B and C in between.
Right.
And that's huge. That's huge, right? And it's not just this one-off. And you said the word novelty, and I was like, no, you're right. It's novelty because you're excited to use it. And how do I express myself using this? Like green screening or whatever it might be.
Right.
And we just need to provide that opportunity for students to be able to explore and express themselves using it. And I think that's so huge. And Rob, I think we've talked about a lot, and we've dove into what Bloxels is, where it came from, and what it is today, and how teachers can use it. But did we miss anything just before we head off? Is there something that you'd like to add that we may have missed during your conversation?
I mean, I can talk about this stuff all day, obviously. I don't think we missed any, big key pieces to what we do. I think that whether you are in a traditional classroom or, a distance learning environment, we have opportunities to get kids to collaborate digitally. And I think that, Bloxels kind of has that. I also think that, explore, there's so many cool products out there. And I would just say to anybody, go out and explore, and Bloxels might be one of them, but there are others too. So explore and experiment. I don't know. That's kind of our mantra. I think I said we kind of go against the grain a little bit in terms of traditional, but it's fun for us, and we genuinely enjoy what we do. Everyone on the team, and we're going to keep building. So.
And on that note, explore and experiment. I think that's the key to take away from today is that students, adults, anyone can use Bloxels to explore and experiment using the tool, both virtual and physical. So I encourage all of our listeners to head over to playbloxels.com, check out the website, and use it, try it out. And don't forget to follow them on social media at Bloxels to see all the amazing things that other educators around the world are doing using these tools, both in class or virtually. So once again, Rob, I thank you so much for joining me on this episode of My Creative Classroom.